Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? We are waiting for our special guest, Barbara DeLong, to join us. So I will entertain you in the interim. In fact, it looks like she is here. Let me see. Do-do-do. Mhm. Always have to get the technical things out of the way. All right. I think we should have things going here pretty quickly. I can see, looks like she's here. So we'll just wait until she actually comes on. So, how are you doing today? Hope it's going well. I know here in Colorado, we have definitely Indian summer, just gorgeous. Had snow last week, and now we have nearly 80 degrees. So, I hope that in your part of the country it is going well. Um, so, until Barbara comes on, thought we might talk a little bit about some of the recent videos that I've been doing. Seems like they've gotten, well, lively discussion. And isn't that what it's about? It's really all the journey, folks. It's so often we get so, I don't know, boxed in. And okay, here we go. Let's see. Don't know why I am not there. Well, okay. I think we can get it. Let's see. We're having a little problem getting Barb on here. So let me go in and see if we can remedy that. Well, this is like live television. You gotta love it. So we have sent her. Let me see what happens when I do that. Well, we know that is working. We're going to get there, folks. You got to love this. Well, if you don't smile, I don't know what you do. Well, I don't know. I just tried the link that I had sent out, and the link is working. So, maybe let's resend it. Well, you can't get any more real than this. Okay, well, we'll just wait to see if Barbara can get on here. And if she can't, well, then I'll wing it. Because I don't understand. The links are working. Just got to love this. Well, trust me, if we can't get her on, I know she is having, she's trying to get on. I don't know why the link isn't working, but oh well. I don't know either. So, uh, let's see someone here. So we're going to try this one more time. And it says my message has been sent. Okay, that's good. All right, I can actually see myself over there. All right, folks, good enough. Well, so looks like I may do this one solo if we can't get Barb on here. Let's see if we can get her on now. I think we may have her, folks. I think we got her. Barb, you're on live. You have your mute on. There you go.
And I have the camera on too, so I'm batting 1,000 here.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, this time we get to see your beautiful smiling face, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. I, appreciate your having patience with me. I don't know what happened, and I did.
It could be operator error too.
No, you know what? I have a severe case of clickitis.
Okay.
And if something isn't working, I click more, and I usually confuse the computer so that it just says, I'm going to sleep, forget it.
Well, I see the sun is already set where you are at, so it is.
It's nighttime.
It is, and winter is coming upon us, Barb.
Yeah, you more than I.
Yeah, well,
although it is cold out there. We've had frost a couple times, so I don't imagine we're going to have snow though, probably until January, February.
Okay. I say we're going to have it by November. Oh, we've already had it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have it.
Yeah. Well, good. So I thought tonight that we might talk about what you had a great deal in creating, and that was the cosmic deck of initiation.
I did have a lot to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am just kind of, as I told everyone before you actually come on, and as I put into the tagline, this is an amazing deck. That's all I can say. It's an amazing deck.
It is. And I tell everybody that it came through me. It wasn't of me. So I can step back and say, you're right. It is. You get information from it that is above and beyond what normally you might get. And yeah, they're cool cards.
So you said it came through you, not
of me. Yeah.
Not of you. Okay. Explain that a little bit more.
I channel. Yeah. I've channeled forever.
I think we all do, by in one degree or another.
Oh, of course we do. Yeah. I think the cool thing about them is I had, when I did the deck, painted personal mandalas for over a decade for other people, for individuals with life readings that went with them. And I always trusted the right design would come up. But I have to preface this all first with the fact that I'm not an artist. I've had no
you could fool me.
I've had no formal art training, none. And so I was in a spiritual development class in the 70s, and one of the homework assignments, because we got homework every week, was to paint a personal mandala for one of the class members. And some people did Jello molds, some people did collages, and I just drew a mandala. And the response was, to me, really, really surprising, because people seem to have been fascinated by the cards, and by the mandalas I was doing. And after a decade or so, I became, with a group of friends of mine, I trashed standard tarot a lot, because I felt, and at the time, you have to understand, it was just the Aquarian deck and the Rider-Waite deck that was really out there.
Right.
So to me, someone who was not trained in tarot, the cards were scary. And
they are intimidating. I will admit that. The artwork is.
Yeah, but you got to understand too, the decks then, the tarot came originally from a card game in Elizabethan times. And it wasn't until the gypsies took the cards that went with that card game and started to tell fortunes with them that they became associated with not spirituality, but with the metaphysical, so to speak. So I looked at the cards and I kept saying, these are negative. These will scare people. How can you possibly give someone spiritual advice when you're looking at somebody that has 12 swords sticking out of them? Or hanging upside down, or flaming towers,
or hanging upside down.
Yeah, and to and oh my God, if they fell in reverse, then it was even worse. So my theory was to create a light energy deck that was not in any way connected to standard tarot. That, I mean, if you want to get really technical, the word tarot means card. So in that sense, yes, it can be lumped in with tarot cards. But this deck was specifically designed and created to help people who are on a spiritual pathway towards awakening and expanding their own spiritual insights and consciousness. And so it's really a personal deck, but you can do readings with it as well. I mean, you know, I'm no fool. I wanted to have something I could play with too. Mm-hmm. So it took me 9 months from the first drawing to actually signing the contract to get them published, which I found an amazing coincidence. The fact that it was 9 months, it was the birth of a new deck. It was the birth of a new aspect.
Yeah.
Of a new philosophy. Now, you know, the aspect of awakening and evolving has been around forever. But at that time, and it was the only the second circular deck ever published.
Really?
Yeah, Mother Peace were the first, and this deck was the second. So, so when the deck came out, I told the publisher, you know, this is way too soon for this deck. It's a sleeper, and I mean, it was well received, but people didn't catch on to what it was supposed to be used for, and it symbolizes the way the deck was created. It symbolizes the evolution of the human spirit from the foundation, the first entrance into humanity, to the threshold card, which takes you into another dimension. So it is the journey of the spirit through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. The first 11 cards deal with the physicality. So you have, first of all, the 7 chakras, which I renamed because I couldn't pronounce the Sanskrit and I didn't want to have to spell them either. So I renamed the chakras. And in doing so, people don't understand that those are chakra cards, which was maybe a mistake. But it was the chakra cards with harmony and oh gosh, what else? Harmony, laughter, evolution, and commitment as kind of additions to it. So you have 11 cards, and the first 11 cards, not only it was done in groups of 11 intentionally, because the first 11, of course, 11 is a master number. Right. It's the number of illumination. So the second 11 cards were the cosmic laws, which of course we are constantly guided by. And they impact our lives, and they are what is constantly at work, sometimes against us and sometimes for us. But people didn't understand or didn't know anything about the cosmic laws. So it was important that they start to realize that if you're on a spiritual journey, the cosmic laws figure more and more and more within your reality. Because sometimes you see a kickback, or sometimes you see karma coming to play within your life, or sometimes the element of the law of reflection is there. And if you understand that that's what you're being taught, if you understand that's what you're being shown, you then embrace it, incorporate it, and can move forward.
Well, maybe we ought to define what cosmic law is. I mean, so often I hear terms that I will make assumptions that I think I know, but doesn't necessarily mean that I know. So cosmic law, how would that be defined?
It's a law that is in play throughout the entire evolution of your spirit. They are set in stone laws, and they come into play within a physical reality, more so probably than when we are in an etheric reality. So that while we're in the physical plane, they are more seeable and understandable. But they are laws that every religion basically in one way or another teaches in its own way.
karma, the law of sowing and reaping, the golden rule, etc.
Hmm.
Correct?
Law of cause and effect, law
Yeah.
of attraction. I
Yeah.
mean, all of them, and they are always at play within our lives. We can't sit back and say, "Huh, I want a new car, so I'm going to start practicing the law of attraction." You don't start practicing it. It's already in play within your life. If you want to embrace it and flow with it, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But you don't turn them on and off. They're always on.
Why is it then that would we say that negative things happen to people sometimes? And it seems like it happens in waves. What causes that? Because I'm sure not everyone's out there attracting, the negative in their life.
A lot of times, when we incarnate, we request that certain situations be given to us so that we can learn, grow, and understand, and come experience something on a physical level that has to be done in a physical level. The law of attraction, for instance, on a spiritual level, if you're just in an etheric body, doesn't mean as much as it does when you're here on the earth plane. When we're in physical, a lot of these laws become more real to us and we can see them at play. But before we evolve, we basically may have a checklist of the things that we want to have presented to us so that we can grow and learn and ascend above the difficulties. Um, you would make a request, and I can't actually remember what the checking list was before I came into this lifetime, but let's say,
Sure.
for instance, um, this lifetime, one of the things that you really want to experience so that you can stretch and grow and evolve beyond a common response would be, I want challenges that are going to stretch me on a financial level. I want challenges so that I have to use my creativity more. I want challenges so that I understand better a relationship between two people when one is not being as giving as the other one wishes. And so you have global requests that are then sort of put into a computer, and those situations come to you at certain times within your life, and you experience them with different levels of awareness. um, it's not that negative things happen to us, it's that we perceive they're negative.
Okay. So that sometimes would go then that an incident on the surface initially seems to be very negative, but what you find out at the end result, hadn't that happened,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't have had the benefit of, and I can think of about a dozen different things right now in my own
For
life,
sure.
you
I
know.
I had a car accident in 90 that meant I had to leave my job of 25 years as a special ed teacher, and I had to reinvent myself. Had I not had the car accident, I never would have had the opportunity to be here where I am today.
So what happens, and I know that this is speculative here, but I'm curious, is that if we have a part of wanting to make sure that as we go through this life and we basically we know what the cue card is, what we have to begin to do to really get to that ascension. And I
Yeah.
really think there is. Listen, I'll share with you and my listeners right now, is that, I've had a vision where I was actually taking a shower, and the next thing I know, I'm stepping through a portal.
Mm-hmm.
And what I had with me, number one, there were other beings. I can't say they were people, but they were presence. I could sense them waiting there for me. They apparently knew me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came through, what I found was I was carrying was this opaque white stone. And I was led back to, apparently, it looked very familiar to me. As I walked into the room, there was a console, and on that console, there were a number other of these opalescent white stones, almost translucent. And all of a sudden, I sensed the presence of what we would call God. Now, I knew it wasn't God, but I knew the presence.
Okay.
And what was really odd, Barb, was that this was my life that I had just lived here. It was the emotions, It was the people whom I loved. It was it was everything in the essence of what I had experienced. And as I put it on the console, I found that I realized was that it was I could go back to any one of these past stones, which were past life experiences. So, excuse me.
Interesting.
So,
That's okay. I've got cats, so.
yeah. So when I realized this, um, the next thing I know, I was back in the shower. And it was as real to me as taking the shower was.
Did you look at your feet at any time throughout that experience?
You know, I cannot recall that.
For people who have experiences like that, or they feel they're in another dimension, it's really important to look at your feet because quite often your form will not be the one you expect.
It's odd because when this experience happened, I came out of the shower. I was in literally tears. I was shaken, and my wife was out there, and she could tell that something was up. And you know, as I told her, as I was reliving it, I was reliving it again.
Yeah.
And it was very, very real. I mean, it was like the death portal is not the death portal. I
No.
mean, I became very much aware that when I stepped through what I was stepping through up. By the way, before I had finished that, I was shown a place, and the only thing I can call it is that it was a transit center.
Mm-hmm.
Barb, it was very, very crowded. I saw many different life forms,
Uh-huh.
a lot of what I would call light beings in this transition period, and this was part of this vision. So yeah.
Well, you got to understand that the spirits, as they evolve, take on an avatar, a form of whatever is indigenous to the planet, to the place that they are going to manifest, to incarnate into. So it's not surprising that you would see different life forms. And when we pass through that portal, we keep the density of the human form for a while. It takes a while for the shadow of it to dissipate and reveal the spirit energy that is within.
As you're saying this, I can now recall some of what I remember because it comes back. It's almost like watching an old talkie. You know, you're watching it and you can almost
Yeah.
figure out what the actress is saying. But I do remember seeing a number of, and the only thing I can say they were like spears, but um, they were motionless. It was almost like they were afraid. They didn't know what to do, and no one was paying attention to them. That was what was really strange.
Well, they were probably being left alone till they found the courage to move forward because nobody's forced over there.
That's what I got that sense. And it's odd now. So when we get back to the cosmic deck,
Yeah.
I see a relationship.
Well, each of the cards, after it was created and somebody brought it up to me, I never actually designed them with that intent, but they do create portals. They do have an energy. They do have a vibrancy to them. They are connected to sacred geometry. They
Oh, okay.
not intentionally. I did them with a ruler and a compass. Those were my tools.
All right. I'm telling you, folks, when it comes in, doesn't it? So, what can a person get from actually, when I got, and by the way, thank you. I've told you this before off
Mm-hmm.
the air, but I'm saying again, you were gracious enough to send me this wonderful gift. What can a person do? For instance, I see that you have in here one reading can be done in what you call a rapid fire.
Yeah, that's I first of all, I made up the spreads because of
Okay.
course I made up everything else. So it just figured why not create my own way of reading. But the one that you've got out there now is called the Foundation spread. And it is a lot of cards. It's very pretty when you get it out on the table. And that particular spread will give you the 12 months of the year. It will give you the 12 astrological houses. It'll give you past, present, future, and it'll give you body, mind, and spirit information. It all depends on what you want to get out of the cards at that particular point in time. What they won't give you is an absolute yes or no, because we have free will.
Oh, now that's very interesting. Yes or no? Because, we all have grown up with the Ouija board and we've seen these things and we've all played games as children coming up and even as adults now, we think that many times it can be yes and no. But you're the first person I've heard actually bring that up as a tangible alternative.
Yeah. They will give you a philosophy that you can apply to whatever is going on. It's your choice. It's your life. You're the one that's totally in charge. But spirit can give you a philosophy that you might not have thought about. For instance, there's a card that is the fifth chakra. It's not free spirit. It's a creative card, and it basically, if you threw that and you had a question about something, basically that would be spirit saying, get creative. Don't, come outside the box. Stretch yourself a little bit, because always the positive is there. It's just a matter of how do you want to get to it. And sometimes you want to wallow, and then you wallow.
Well, how true. And, it brings up that thought. Listen, if the universe is made up of a balance, both positive and negative, you can't have one without the other.
Exactly.
That's why I tell people heaven doesn't exist. It would become hell to you very quickly.
What's the point to it?
Well, that's exactly. I don't think we really think about, is that, so, all right, what do you do once you get there?
I mean, if you want to sit and eat bonbons by the fire for the rest of your life, you can do it, but there's no point to it.
There isn't. And
nope.
It really isn't. And so it gets back to this point. We're always seeking guidance, but it seems so often in that sought process that we always end up drawing upon the negative.
Sometimes, or we're asking someone else a question that relates to our situation, and they're giving their opinion from their perspective, but it's not their life. So sometimes the advice we get from others is more harmful than what would happen if we let something evolve from us.
So what I'm hearing in that, and my mind is turning, is that it seems like each of us would have the ability to look within to seek the guidance of a tool like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a man sat down and asked me advice. He had prostate cancer. Now, I don't have a prostate. I mean, I could give him good sound advice, logical advice, common sense advice, but I couldn't tell him what was really best for him. It was his choice to make. It was his decision to make. And maybe he needed to sit and meditate. Maybe he needed to listen to the whispers that come when we sleep, those silent whispers that come at night in our dreams. Maybe he was waiting for a sign and the sign wasn't there yet. But to give someone advice is to only go from my own experience, which doesn't help them at all.
Ooh. That's profound. That is really profound. When you're really looking for the guidance, you have to always remember how it's being filtered to you.
Exactly. And the worst thing you can do is to go to a psychic.
Well, there you go, folks.
Worst thing you can do.
So I am left then puzzling. I'm 62. And at this age in my youth, and I'm still in my youth, I have come to now begin to question fundamental thoughts and precepts that I had always thought were well grounded. And the one that you and I were talking earlier about, and I have been thinking about it more and more since that time, is what is spirituality?
It's a good question. I think one of the I wrote something in my website, and I think the part that really touched me the most is it's not science, but it includes science. It's not philosophy, but it includes philosophy. It's not religion, but it includes religion. It is all of everything, and then it goes beyond it. And we have been so conditioned that science is absolute, that philosophy is absolute, but nothing is absolute. Everything is constantly growing and evolving. And spirituality, to me, is the practice of evolving into and trying to become more like the spirit that we carry within. It is walking the spiritual philosophy. It is walking in steps that are not dictated by dogma or there are no rules to spirituality. You can be a spiritual angleworm farmer. You can be, you don't have to be a minister. You don't have to be a practitioner of the arts to be spiritual. Being spiritual is allowing yourself to touch into that spirit that you carry within and get guidance from it. In other words, that spirit that you got inside of you is totally, absolutely 100% a master. No question. You wouldn't be free to incarnate if you weren't already a master.
Folks, are you picking up on this? Listen, I don't know how many, let me just give a second here, Barb. I don't know how many is actually listening to us, but I have to tell you this. That was profound, folks. I mean, literally profound, that we are all master spirits already.
Well, stop and think. In order to drive a car, you have to have a license.
Correct.
All right. So you're driving an avatar. It's intricate. It's refined. The only way you can get into the place where all of us are is if you are a master spirit, if you have achieved mastery.
Wow. Wow.
And did you come here to make mistakes? Yes, you did.
and apparently we do it very well.
Oh, I have 2 master's degrees, but I think I have a master's degree in screwing up too. So
I think we all can raise our hand. How everyone in the chat room, I know there's like 80 watching us, and we all have to agree with this. Bart, let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. So in this discovery of spirituality, and boy, I'll tell you what, I could put a question out to, we got over 80 plus watching us now, and it's growing, but it seems to me, Barb, that we get, the word I use is soul freeze. We start down this path of spirituality and we get off to the sidetrack into these tangents.
Yeah.
That we think that it's actually adding to our spiritual growth, but it's really regressing that.
Oh, I people come to me and they say, I don't understand. I've taken, a gazillion classes. I've spent a fortune on workshops. I have all these certificates that tell you, all of the things that I have achieved. And it's like, I just look at them and say, but that doesn't prove anything. That doesn't prove you're spiritual. It proves that you spent a lot of money.
No one's guilty of that here, I can tell you.
Oh, I met a lady once who she had heard about me, and she was lovely to me, and I said, well, what is your modality? What it is it that you're working on? And she said, well, I'm a shaman, and she was very young, and I said, that's profound. What Peruvian, Native American, what kind of a shaman are you? And she said, well, they didn't tell me. And I said, I said, well, how did you become a shaman? And she said, well, I took a 3-day workshop and I have a certificate. Oh, and I said, please don't tell anybody you're a shaman, especially a shaman, because the term shaman is one that is given you by people who respect you. It's not a class you can take.
Well,
It's
there's
just,
your problem right there. I mean,
yeah. And so it's not, I mean, if you want to play with pendulums and you want to study with someone, if you want to play with dowsing rods or whatever, go for it. But you have to understand that these are tools that can easily become crutches. And
good point. Excellent point.
I had a lady that, under no lie, when she went shopping for a birthday card for someone, she used her pendulum to see if it was the appropriate card. She slept with the damn thing under her pillow. I mean, I said, it's you that are giving the electronic, messages to that pendulum. Whoever is using the pendulum or the dowsing rods or whatever is drawing on their own energy. And lots of times, someone using especially dowsing rods will be telling the dowsing rods what to do instead of allowing them to give a correct answer.
Why is it that we doubt ourselves, Barbara? Because, really what you just said there is that we always seem to gravitate towards a crutch.
Mhm.
And yet, all of us are guilty of this. It's that experiment. If you had three doors and you had one choice, what would those choices be?
Well, as far as practitioners go, people like a good show.
Hmm.
I could sit and talk to somebody without using cards, without using anything, but they wouldn't just be as impressed or pay attention as much as if the cards are out on the table. And when it comes to your own personal stuff, you want to sign. And I got to tell you, when I was painting the cards, I would take breaks now and then, and I was walking my dog, and it was springtime, and we lived by the water, and there were boat yards around us, and so you could hear the clanking of the rigging in the sailboats. It was really had to be about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm walking the dog, and I'm thinking, I could be on one heck of an ego trip here, thinking that I am competent to create something that can be of service to humanity, and I was talking out loud, and the dog was paying no attention, and it was like, I need a sign. I need something to know that I'm on the right path. I don't want to take advantage of people. I don't want to put something out there that is inappropriate. I'm beginning to question my own intuitive direction. And it was like, a burning bush would be fine. A clap of thunder would be fine. Just something simple. You don't have to make it, a grand anything, but just let me know, and let me know in a definitive way, so that I keep going, because otherwise I'm going to go on strike. I'm going to stop, because I am so frightened that this is my ego doing this and not a sincere spiritual journey. And I waited, and nobody said anything, and the dog didn't pay any attention, and I heard the clanking, and at that hour of the morning, nobody's stirring, even the insects are sleeping. And a seagull flew over my head and shit on me.
Well, there's your cosmic answer, folks, right there.
And it was like, you have to be specific, you
Yeah.
have to say, a burning bush would have been better, I think, but
At least a little bit more dramatic and see where you're going.
I no longer go on strike outside.
Wow, that is so. Yeah, but it gets right back down to this. We within ourselves typically will have our own compasses,
Yeah.
but we have become so dependent on so many external, what we would call affirmations, right?
But isn't that what major religion has done to us?
Well, it has. It absolutely has. I mean,
You have to go through this, you have to do this, you have
yep.
to appeal here, you have to do that.
Hmm.
And the reality is that that master teacher that is inside has to work through our personality and our ego in order to manifest. So it has to do it subtly, because the ego really doesn't want to have anybody else in control.
Boy, and I'm just sitting here because I can only relate to my own experience, and I come out of the Christian faith, and as I look at it now, what happens is that we all come into this desire to know that which is greater than ourselves. But the problem is that we don't know ourselves when we step into that search.
Right.
So we begin to look at the greater self is higher, but never understanding it is self.
Yeah.
That's really what you're praying to. It's really what you're drawing through your focus and your energy. That's what I've come to understand. We don't need a savior per se to show us the way.
Yeah. And your savior would be different than my savior.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, they don't wear name tags. And anybody who is walking on the earth plane now that says they are a savior is lying, because people have to be an expression of what they are inside.
Yes.
And if somebody is really walking a spiritual pathway, then it's recognized. People sense it, people feel it, people know it.
Yeah.
And if people aren't recognizing it, then you're doing something wrong. Then your arrogance, the glamour that comes with having touched in with some of the internal gifts that we've brought through time, and you get carried away with it. It's easy to do.
Talk about those gifts, because I think that that's something that many of us are confused with. I contend this, that within each one of us, we have special abilities, talents, and gifts. Not all are equal to each other, but yet they are compatible with all.
Well, in your DNA, you've got the ability to do many things, and not everything is turned on with everyone each lifetime. And we are all intuitive. We are all able to. We are all empathic. We are all. There is the element of being able to see into the future to a certain degree. There is, I mean, we have a sensitivity that people doubt, and they keep shoving it back and saying, nah, that was just my imagination. Well, your imagination is a way that spirit talks to you.
Could you, boy, you just said something that just set off a thought in my mind. We all have that empath, that sensitivity. But here's my question, Barb. So many of us lose our ability of seeing that. And I wonder if it's like anything else in life, that when you have a block and you continue to block, that eventually this is going to have a negative effect somewhere else.
No, it's not going to be negative. It's going to make things more difficult.
Okay. All right. That's just another word. Then another word that would say then it's going to have an impact somewhere else.
And that's going to enable you to learn a lesson that you were supposed to learn.
Wow. All I know is that when I get at the end of this journey here, it's like Cat Stevens says, my body's been a good friend, but I'm not going to need it when I reach the end.
True.
I'm just going to want to make sure that when I get the list that I sent to myself, I mean, seriously, I want to go, okay, Steiger. Oh, crap.
Well, let me get my let me make sure that we're talking same words here. I believe we're body, mind, and spirit.
Yes. Okay.
And the body is obviously the body. The mind is what people call the soul. That's our character. That's our personality. And our spirit is what is traveling through time. At death, the body and the spirit are over for this lifetime. And we don't use them again. The soul is the word that relates to the mind and the character and the personality, if you will. The ego, that's the mind, that's the soul, that's of this life. So that the spirit will move on. The other stuff, it's like I tell people, it's like when we were young, most of us, if we were lucky, got a new winter coat every year. And we get a new coat because we grew out of the old one. So that
sorry, I just thought of some could go on.
so that we don't need that personality and we don't need that body again. So the next time we come into this incarnation, we will take up, and sexuality will take up a different, because the spirit is androgynous.
But now the spirit continues, though, right, in that
yes,
path and that journey, because that's the one thing I haven't quite, I got to be candid with you. The whole thought of reincarnation scares the crap out of me. I mean, it's the idea that, quite frankly, to think that I asked for this, what was I thinking?
Well, you probably were with me at the bar having a few beers before you went into the reincarnation office, because
like,
I swear that I think we're given a checklist, literally. And some spirits, because usually the time frame in Earth years is about 100 years.
Yeah, that seems about to be and quite frankly, I've asked this question. I'm actually going to do a program. If you could live forever, would you want to in this temporal form? Hell no. I mean, after 100 years, I don't know.
Well, the body was built for 120 years.
I think it was actually built longer than that, but I'll go with the 120. Absolutely.
Well, today,
yeah,
it's theoretically it should last 120 years. But I've seen some 110-year-old people, and no, I want my 30-year-old body back.
Hey, listen, and the way that transhumanism is working now, they have actually said in the next 10 years, they will unlock the code for the regressive gene of aging. Now, what that will do to humanity, I don't know, but this is where we're heading towards. And at least that's where the boutique labs of genetic engineering is going.
Well, even so, the soul is still going to move on. And we come into each lifetime with things to achieve. And no matter how old we are, when we've achieved them, we move on. That's why children die young. That's
and
why.
Know what? You just brought up something. Barb, you're reading my mind. Get out of my head. But
there's plenty of room. Don't worry about it.
My wife said that's a scary place to be. But I've just thought about this. When I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, I knew a guy, great guy. We were buddies. And at the age of 37, he comes downstairs, has breakfast with his wife, and drops dead of a heart attack. I've often wondered how I see so many lives cut short, but you just gave me a thought.
They're not cut short.
Maybe they accomplished exactly what they were sent here to do.
Sometimes, of course, I told my grandmother she was too mean to die. They didn't want her on the other side. That's why she wasn't dying. But
moving right on along.
but no, it's and I think people need to realize that list of things that you need to accomplish before you move on to the next level, so to speak, is not a great I need to put this point across to humanity. I need to achieve this, and this, and then I will have done I need to make this much money, have this many toys, whatever. The things we're here to accomplish can be as simple as smiling at someone and telling them they look pretty in the grocery store, and then moving on and knowing that person is going to have a smile the rest of the day because you said something kind to them. It can be not hitting a car, in an accident. It can be such simple thing, and they are always simple things. They aren't the huge things. You need to write a best-selling book, yada yada. No, you don't. Besides, every author only writes for themselves anyhow.
True that. I mean, and that's been always my thing. I tell people, because I get a lot of response, people saying they're praying for my soul and that way you need to read the Bible. And what they don't realize is that I have been reading the Bible and studying it longer than most of them have been alive. But here's the point, is that no matter what the word is written, it's still synthesized to the individual who's putting ink to paper.
One thing I know, reincarnation may frighten you terribly, but I highly suspect you wrote one of the books of the Bible.
If I did, God help us.
And you're here to correct your mistake.
Well, there might be a lot of truth to that because I am definitely upsetting more than a few off. But what people don't understand is that, Barb, these thoughts that come to me they're of another place.
Yeah.
They're profound. They're very deep. And what people don't understand is that if you could only see what happens when it happens, well, you would probably understand when it hits. I mean, it's quite something.
I have to tell you, there have been nights when I have been exhausted and I've gone to bed and my eyelids closed, but my eyes are wide open, and
Yeah.
there's no way sleep is going to come because I have something I have to do. And it may be folding laundry, or it may be writing something profound. It just, it's just, you're not done. Get up. And lots of people fight it. Lots of people take sleeping pills. Lots of people, I
Yeah.
get up.
Yeah.
And I sit at the computer and I kick whatever cat is on my chair off, and I get to work. And it's amazing because when I've finished or come to a stopping point, then I'm exhausted. Then I can go to sleep, and then I only need about 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. I mean, you don't do a lot of those back to back, but it's like there is a reason that I was pushed to do the cards. I was literally pushed to do the cards, and once the cards were done, I did not paint mandalas anymore.
You see, there's something very profound for all of us in what Barb is saying, because I know there's people in the chat room that are talking on this. Is that, Barb? I think that what's happening to us, I think there's a lot happening to us, but there seems to be more and more that are I think that we're a triune being, as you just said. We have a body, we have a mind, which is the soul, and then the spirit, which is the divine spark.
Mm-hmm.
I've often said this, that if the soul had the opportunity to express, would the body be quiet enough to let it talk?
Probably not.
But
But
I
do.
think about that.
I want to also mention something. When last we spoke, I talked to you about the element of creativity, and it's through the channels of
Yes.
creativity that the soul can manifest within reality. And I noticed some people had said some things in the chat room that I want to kind of
We'll address them.
I want to add to that, because it is important that you be creative. It is important it be a joyful experience for you. If it's work, then it's not creative. It's a job. But you can't double dip. If you are doing creativity for the sheer joy of creation and not being compensated monetarily, then it counts. You get the spiritual brownie points. If you're getting a paycheck for it, or if somebody is buying your work, then it doesn't count.
Kind of reminds me of that. If when you're praying, do it in secret, you'll be rewarded openly. But if you do it out,
exactly.
yeah, okay.
I mean, once the cards were sold to a publisher, I no longer got the spiritual brownie points. And it was like, oh, darn, now I have to find another way to be creative that I won't be paid for. So I joined a choir because I don't have a good singing voice. So I knew I'd never be paid for that. So,
wow.
I mean, and lots of people are so creative that everything they do creatively, they then can turn around and sell. So that challenges them even more greatly, because if you get stuck in the fact that I can make money on this, and all you're doing is making or being creative for the money, it becomes a job. And therefore you're turning it into a more material form.
I have found in life that when I thought I was freeing myself, all I was doing was exchanging one master for another.
Yeah.
And many times it cost me decades. And it's only when you start getting near the exit point that you look back and you go, man, if I just knew that, I could have saved at least 3,600 days to go somewhere else.
Yeah, but if you'd done that, then you wouldn't be where you are now. And I suspect you really like where you are now.
Oh, you know what? it's a point that I can tell you that there is a peace that surpasses this understanding. I listen, my whole Christian walk was always walking on that razor edge.
Mm-hmm.
And and then you get into the schisms of the faith itself, and you're either going to be on this side of the argument or that. And what I found out was that as I got older, the more confused I became. Well, you know, and then
Sure.
and when I realized they got the name wrong to begin with, and I said, well, okay, now, there's something going on here. But yeah,
But there's also something beyond it.
yeah.
And
Oh,
that's what I think is so wonderful. There is I keep telling people that you go cosmic, you go beyond the let's be honest here. On any other planet, they wouldn't know who Jesus was, they wouldn't know what the Bible was, they wouldn't know what religion was. So that there has to have been a greater creator out there that doesn't take a minor title like God. And but we created the gods, we created all of them, we
yeah.
created the Christian God. I mean, there is a creator out there, there is a consciousness that has created us, absolutely, it is profound.
Boy, is it.
But it didn't ask to be worshiped.
Ooh, you hear that? Now, see, that I can hitch my horse up to, you know?
It's sort of like it planted seeds. It
Yeah.
doesn't give a damn. Some of them will live, some of them will not. Some of them will, grow and flower and evolve. Some of them will not. There's a big bag of spiritual seeds that were cast out amongst the stars, and everything developed in a different way. But that consciousness is not looking at everything. It's on to bigger and better things.
There was one author, great fiction author, F. Paul Wilson, that I've mentioned before. He wrote a great book called Night World. He was the author who articulated that exact point the best. He said there were two dynamic forces in the universe of all realities. And it wasn't a case that one really cared about the other. It was a fact that, for instance, here in this temporal plane called Earth, there was what they was called the other. And it just came along and seen this, and then what was here before, who really didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the fact that this other presence came in, that this other one came back. And it was so poignant, Barb, that it said to me is that the creator really isn't up there balancing the scales.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
we're like you're familiar with what milkweed looks like when
Yes.
it
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
okay. So when all of those seeds go out all over the place, that pod isn't keeping track of everything and saying, "Oh, 492, screwing up royally." It doesn't care. It doesn't care.
It
I mean,
doesn't.
it isn't that it yeah, that's not the right way to say it. It has released seeds,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the seeds have consciousness, and it's up to the seeds to flourish where and how they can.
I think we're getting there, Barb. I think I don't know if we're going to see it within my lifetime here, but I do believe that you, I, the others that are leaving legacies behind, that it will serve generations yet to come.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
but it's funny because I had an almost guest on my show last night that deals in out of place artifacts, and basically his studies have come up with the fact that um, human or humanoids have been on this planet for millions and millions of years,
Ah,
and there are artifacts that prove that. So that it's and what was the other thing I did want to say to you? Um, I wanted to ask you. I want to make sure I pronounce this. Are you familiar with the Darren Kulu, Darren Kulu um, tunnels in Turkey?
yes, I have heard about those.
13 stories underground,
Yes.
enough, and it is the largest of the 200 tunnel systems that are in Turkey.
And they go for like hundreds of miles, don't they? I mean,
It,
from what I
it was
understand.
it's big enough to house over 20,000 people. So at some point in time, humanity did live underground.
All right, so I did a video today and titled "We Missed Something," and this came to me in a brilliance. I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
So you take the Genesis story, whether it's metaphorical, allegorical, whatever. I think it talks about in the very beginning, and particularly in the third chapter, where we have an interspecies breeding, and
Mm-hmm.
it triggered something into me, and I said, "Well, now wait a minute, wait a minute." It said serpent, not with a capital S, with a small s. That's a
Mm-hmm.
species.
Yeah,
And then I'm going, wait a minute. Now, is it possible that this species is actually the superior species, been here longer than humanity, has actually interbreeded with humanity, and is actually the superior of the races? And they
could
went
be.
underground. I mean, the evidence would seem, and the reason why I say that, Barb, is that I did a series called The Bloodline Invaders. And what I did, it's nearly, 20 hours of programming, but was the fact that no matter where I went in the record of man's ancestry, I always found reptilians, the reptile, the
Mm-hmm.
serpent. I call them the serpent race because they're everywhere.
Oh, yeah. And well, you were talking, you mentioned Atlantis at one time. And
Yes.
according to the Billy Meyer material, there were three, um, over a period of about 30 or 40,000 years, there were three separate times that people from this star system hit the planet and founded colonies that were called Atlantis. And one of them was a warring colony, and there is no description as to what the Atlanteans looked like at all.
No, no, none.
And they say that as they intermingled and other species that visited the planet intermingled, we've got in our DNA, we've got all sorts of we are garbage burgers.
I heard
And
a, I heard a biochemist say today in an interview. He says, "Yeah," he says, "we're the Heinz 57." He says because
oh yeah,
there's more in us than what anyone could ever put in any steak.
there is a DNA a fragment there that is turned off within us, but if it were turned on, it would replicate any limb that got taken off.
Wow, folks, think
The
about that.
regeneration, there are, I guess, lizards that if
Yes.
their tail breaks off, it regenerates. There is that regeneration part inside in our DNA. There are 12 strands, I believe, and of the 12
Mhm.
strands, only two of them are functional.
Well, see, I have a theory now on that double helix. I think I know where it comes from.
Okay.
Well, it's the interbreeding of the what I call the serpent race and the Homo sapiens. Listen, when you start thinking about this and you really get down into the DNA level, that's what I've always had a problem with the Genesis 6 story was these fallen angels coming down and having sexual intercourse with women. How did they have sperm? And then more importantly, how was the transfer of DNA cohesive enough to bind to the DNA of the human?
Well, not only that, but the giants that they talk about there were 24 feet high. And if everything is in proportion, there's no way that there was interbreeding in a natural way at all. And,
I can't see it.
we have the bones on this planet
We
of
know they were here.
giants.
Yeah, we know they were here.
They're even on in North America, there was also um, a huge colony of little people 2 to 4 feet high.
Yep.
They found 10,000 graves, and these were all mature little people that, they were 40 to 70 years old. So at some point in time, they were here. I mean, you look at the Bible saying, mankind is what, 5,000 to 6,000 years old. Well, how do they explain that the copper mines in Minnesota and Michigan have been mined for at least 9,000 years?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, that's this
Right.
whole thing is just crazy. I remember um, I knew Ben Carson really well, particularly before he got involved where he's at in politics. And him and I were having a discussion one time in Tyson's Corner, and he said, he said, I don't understand how and he was talking about Christian people, faith. He said that they really think it's 6,000 years. That he said, he said, my granddaughter knows better than that. And I happen to find Ben Carson to be a very brilliant man.
Well, the planet's what, 450 billion years old?
I think they said close to 5 billion. And
Yeah.
I look at the planet as a life form,
Oh, yeah.
long-lived species, long-lived species. And
Well, when you consider that there have been 5 total extinction
yes,
experiences of the planet that they have been able to identify,
yes,
that means that it got wiped out and started all over again.
I have a book I only share with very special people, but in this book, it talks about, here's the problem, folks. And Barb, I'll bring this out about the archaeological record. The earth has a way of dissolving the past.
Oh, yeah.
And then bringing it into the present. And that's the problem we have today, is that many of the records that we're talking about, I think exist, but I think that just the way the earth works as a living organism.
Well, yeah, but we hold within us our own hall of records.
Yes.
So
now, there you go. Now, see, that's the other point. Do you think that actually exists on an ethereal plane?
No.
It's cosmic knowledge. So it's just within us.
Well, if you stop and think about it, we have the internet.
Yes.
And in the internet is all the knowledge known to man, just about.
Yes.
If you can look for it. So you would think that a spirit would have access to even greater technology, wisdom, whatever. I do believe that our spirit, the spirit within us, has knowledge of everywhere it's been and everything it's done, of its total evolutionary, but it doesn't care about a planet. I mean, it's like last Tuesday, I really don't remember what happened last Tuesday. I don't really, I'm sure I did stuff. If I looked at the calendar, I could tell you, but there's so much more importance to where you're going. Now, where you've been does give you a foundation, and it is a good thing to know. And every time you incarnate, there are lifetimes that have great relevance to what you're going through now. And those lifetimes are easy to pull up. But it's almost like our minds are a computer. So the memory of a spirit who is eternal has to be as complex, if not more so. So why would he want to look into a book?
Well, now you open up a whole lot of thought, because and I do believe that this journey never ends. I don't think that there is.
Yeah, no, I don't think it does either.
Yeah. And that's the first thing I had to get through my head. Mankind cannot think of eternity, because we're always thinking of a beginning and an end. But you just said something to me, that to the audience as well, is that, okay, what says I'm going to be the next time coming through? Am I going to be a Homo sapien? There are literally, I don't know how many races out there, how many species?
Billions.
And you're going to tell me, I'm beginning to understand something now. It never stops. The life experience of just being able to say, if you were just to be each species along the way.
Well, and we have been, because we are eternal, as long as it takes in the human experience, we'll come back again and again and again and again and again. Could be thousands, could be millions of times, but we have all the time in the world. And so I don't know that we constantly stay in one dimension. You may well, have 10 or 20,000 here on the Earth plane and decide to be in another star system, in another galaxy, in another dimension for a vacation. and in that particular place, you are, I don't know, a green blob, or you're a winged creature, or you are just an etheric body of energy that floats through the experiences, and they're all different because you no longer have physicality, so that you're getting your information in a different way, in a different manner. The lessons are coming in a different way. So it's we always have, it's like the guys who wrote the Bible. They describe things from their own frame of
Yes, they
reference.
did. Yes, they did.
So to conceive of something that is beyond my frame of reference is a tough one, because you're always having to pull it down to and make it smaller, so that the vocabulary and the verbiage gives you a picture of some sort. But the spirit is there. There's, you don't see it. It is invisible, but it is vibrant. And I would imagine, in the right light, it glows. But I'm not real sure about that. But I do know that it is an energetic field, that it is energy that is timeless.
Yes, that I do know. I've had a couple of out of body experiences. So, and it's what I've come to. In fact, I was laying down last night about 1 o'clock is when I went to sleep, and I'm now becoming aware that in my life there have been very a lot of different me's. The 20-year-old is no longer alive, but the 20-year-old could never have seen the 60-year-old.
No.
And now I'm here, and it's though I'm having a conversation with that young man 40 years ago. And it tells me how permanent time is, but yet how it's so conceptually different to actually apprehend and thought.
But man created time.
Well, I know, and I think that Robert Lanza's book Biocentrism is probably one of the best books that people could read in understanding the whole perception of time. But you're right. Well, Barb, I have kept you for longer than I had, and I know, and I can see in the chat room that the people are enjoying this conversation as well. And I just have to say that I think that we've had a wonderful discussion. So before we head out, what would you like to tell everyone? Because I happen to think you're fabulous. I want you back. And
I would love to come back.
I think there's so many people. So you have the mic. What would you like to say?
I would like to caution everyone during this time of confusion to not make snap judgments, that understanding that we're going through a time of revelation, and that means we're getting facts day by day by day, and that goes for your personal life as well as as political and religious and everything. This is a time where silence and patience is very, very important, and listening to yourself and allowing other people to listening to what other people have to say, but not making judgment. This is not a time of judgment. This is not a time of closing the books on anything. This is a time of waiting and listening and learning quietly.
Oh, man, folks. I mean, Barbara, that's so true. You said about being quiet. I always love the psalmist that he says, Sheila, be quiet, oh my soul,
Mm-hmm.
and know the serenity of God. And that's that quiet place. I like how you said it. It's also not a time of judgment. Wow. Because I see that so often permeating the thought process. It's
Yeah,
judgmental.
and when somebody, especially someone who people are listening to, makes a statement carved in stone, this is the way it is.
Yeah.
They close the box, and no box should ever be closed. They should never have lids, because there's always more information, more wisdom, more light, more energy to come from any situation. So nothing is carved in stone.
Yeah.
And with time, stone wears away.
You see, that former person that once lived was just that type of person. You become very dogmatic,
Mm-hmm.
and you're absolute in your views. And turned out?
I mean, I will share my philosophies with anyone, but I will also say that's for today.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it may be very different, but this is where I am today.
And isn't it odd how we get so, because we'll so quickly snap back on a person and say, well, I thought you said, and you're going, yeah, I did say that, but today is I learned something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so back to your own self.
Got it.
I tell you, it's the old adage, folks, is that when you point the finger at someone else, remember you got 3 more pointing back at you.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely.
Well, Barb, we're going to end this here. I'd love to have you again, maybe next week if you'd like to do that.
I can certainly make the time.
Okay. Well, folks, I just want to say to you and all of you, you're all special. We're all on this journey together. We're all sojourning the path. And if we just be kind to one another, we can help one another. And Barb, it's guidance like you that I think helps all of us.
Well, I'm constantly learning so that your questions generate answers that I listen to too.
Well, I tell you one thing, I know this, that your soul is one that we all can learn from, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And you as well.
Oh, well, you're too kind. All right, everyone, have yourself a great evening. Be kind to one another. Be kind to your mind. And then we'll be back here real soon. All right, folks, take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.